to the Thought Snob Podcast. I'm Paula Swope. Let's get snobby. Greetings from the Bluegrass State to all my snobby thinkers who are listening right now. And I hope all of my thought snobs are ready for a mind-blowing conversation because I'm sitting here with Monica Hardin. If you don't know who she is, you're going to know her name by the end of this podcast. Monica is a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur, passionate about living everyday life with joy, appreciation, and intention. She shares parts of her journey online to inspire, inform, and encourage others. Whether it's on camera or in person, her professional presence resonates with energy and enthusiasm. As an MC, Monica helped to raise tens of millions of dollars for various causes. In 2005, she was personally awarded recognition for her work by President George W. Bush. Monica is the founder and CEO of the Monica Hardin Company, LLC. Her creative strategy firm works with organizations and individuals to illumine their authentic key assets in order to elevate and increase exposure, engagement, and expansion. Her services include everything from consulting, coaching, public speaking, spokesperson and ambassador work, voiceover, emceeing, hosting, moderating discussions, fundraising event strategy, and given the appeal to organic social media marketing strategy. Monica earned the title of Miss Kentucky in 2001, competed in the Miss America pageant, and was featured on MTV's True Life series. For 15 years, she shared stories about other people while delivering the news on live television as an Emmy award-winning news anchor for Louisville's CBS affiliate. Today, she delights in telling her own stories. If asked, she'll tell you that humble beginnings keep her grounded, and it's through grit, grace, and gratitude that she lives everyday life and moves forward in spite of deaths, a divorce, and her own breast cancer diagnosis. I am thrilled to pieces that you are here today.
Oh, Paula, thank you so much. In our pre-interview, I told you, you've been a mentor for me over these past few years.
I know.
And I'm serious. And so when you gave me the invitation, I said, ooh, I need to be in your space and to do this in your fabulous studio. And what a gift this time is for me.
Well, I appreciate you saying that because I was a little nervous about asking.
What?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Well, I didn't want to seem stalkish because I had been watching you too. And we had, crossed paths so many times at all those nonprofit events and stuff, but we'd never really talked or really gotten to know each other. And I just want our listeners to know exactly what freaking got me and why I wanted you to be a guest on the show. So I was watching one of your 1 minute videos, and you mentioned that you were talking to your friend Elizabeth, and there was a book on your, I think maybe your coffee table and it was titled Fight On. And you saw the title and you looked at Elizabeth and you were like, I'm done fighting. And when you said that, I was like, oh my God, I remember that moment. Same. And it just reiterated what I already knew about you. And it let me know that you had a major shift at some point right here, the mindset. And so that's why I wanted to invite you on the show so you could just talk about what that looks like for you. It's like when you made that shift, what did it look like for you?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I would say, and this wasn't long ago when this happened, but what I will say is, first of all, I've had so many shifts throughout my life, right? These awakenings, these moments, these paradigm shifts, and I've always had them. Now, somewhere along the way, I learned to disregard what I knew, to not listen, to look outside of me for answers. And so I've been in this beautiful process of reconnecting, recovering my truest self. And I looked at that table, and it's a beautiful book. Like, it's pretty, it's pink, and but I realized that the message that it was giving me the energy that it was putting out, I no longer needed it. And literally, and Elizabeth, she's really taught me a great deal about how environment impacts and making it even more beautiful, right? I've always been like an organized type person and like to have my things where they are. But Elizabeth in my life has taught me how to appreciate art in an even greater way as far as original art, even if it's my children's art in my home, because of that energy and the feel that it brings. And so when I told her I was taking the book out, she was like, no, it's beautiful. I'm like, no, like, I'm done. And it was one of the moments for me with a girlfriend who I've looked to at times be a guiding light and to seek advice and input. It was a moment where I used my voice and I was like, no, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And so it will stay empty until I find another book or a flower arrangement goes there or what have you. And it was just like a knowing, right?
Yeah.
Like, all right, this is good. What was it for you? I'm curious now about.
It was like I was just sick of being miserable. And I suddenly realized that everything that I had been taught growing up and everything that I had accepted to believe about myself before my brain was fully developed was a lie. And it was all based on these subjective beliefs that had, gotten into my subconscious, and that was what was controlling my behaviors and all the thoughts about myself. And I just realized that none of that was true. And when I started looking at the facts and I started really asking myself questions, which I hadn't done before, it's just like I was on freaking autopilot.
Isn't that all of us though?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's like I was doing everything that I was being who everybody else was telling me that I was. And the culture that I was brought up in was more male dominant, and the women sat back and they were submissive and just really settled for not getting what they wanted. And so the first, 3 decades of my life, I settled and just thought, well, this is the way it is. And I really did have this fixed mindset. But when I started looking at the facts, I was like, well, this isn't true. None of this is true. And so that's when I had that I'm done fighting, because when you start to look at the truth, I mean, that's really what brings you peace. You don't have to fight because you are who you are, and you don't have to keep conforming. And so that's what it was like for me, but it was hard. I mean, it wasn't an easy transition because I didn't have any support coming from anybody. And that's exactly why I'm in the line of work that I'm in right now. And that's where Thought Snob came from. Snobs see new objective beliefs. Look at the truth. And I had been told my whole life that women were not capable of making as much money as men. And I really, really did believe that, because that's all I had sat back and observed that forever. I started looking. I was like, well, Tina Turner did it. And Dolly Parton did it, and Viola Davis did it, and all these wonderful women did it, and we're all from the same source, so why would I be any different? And I just really started looking at everything from a different angle, and my life changed. It was hard. It was hard, but it changed, and things just started to get a little bit better, like incrementally, a little bit better. And so that's what it looked like for me.
Yeah.
And
I would say, to answer though, too, to go back for me, I mean, I could go back if I had a timeline of my life, right? To look at the shifts that changed. But I would say specifically for me, even the book not long ago, The Fight On, really a big step in me changing my paradigm was 2017. Really was the catalyst for this. And so what I can say is I built this life based on how I was raised and what I learned, and people who I know love me dearly, everything that I'd worked for. And I was that like good girl, the perfect daughter, all these things, right? And all of a sudden I realized, ooh, I'm getting some stuff that I didn't sign up for. And this doesn't feel right. And I was even being told by certain people that things that I just knew weren't right, that I should accept unacceptable behavior. And so that was like, and even before that, I knew, I'm like, stuff is just not right. And even speaking to it, sometimes you can speak to things, but if you're not going to get the truth, right, it doesn't matter. But finally, I broke free, and ever since then, it was just it's been a continuous process of just like layers. If you see me as an onion today I'll be an onion, but just layers falling off. And it's like, that's been my work mostly, right? And it's been so incredible because I wasn't expecting, in 23, the end of the year, to look at this table and look at this thing, this book, this cute coffee table book, to say, this doesn't work for me anymore. But that is like the receptivity, the place that I just like reside in now. I'm like, you know what? All of this matters to me. How does this feel to me? This impacts me and my children. And you know what? If they're seeing this all the time, then, maybe I switch this out.
Right.
And just let it be. But it's been like so many things, like just throughout the years, and slowly just peeling back those layers. Like you said, it happens incrementally. And what a gift it's been, because now I do feel like that book, it was like, oh no, honey, you're leaning in. Surrender, let go, open up. You're doing it. Yeah. Because for me, Paula, especially 2 years ago, my plan, I had my whole life plan and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like, everything that I'd worked towards got thrown into a paper bag, and it's like, shake it up and, everything changes. But it was the best gift. I heard you say you didn't have anybody there for you. You were doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what, these past 2 years for me, I needed to be single. Now, learning how to date 38 plus, Lord have mercy, that's a whole nother podcast.
Oh, trust me.
Right?
I was there for many years.
Right? So being in singlehood, being able to feel the lonely, being able to sit in uncomfortable dark, to be able to grieve, to be able to process. I was on such my life was so busy, high speed, I was anchoring the news and being a mom and taking care of everybody else. And the gift of 2 years ago, when I retired from news, it was like, oh, now you can process all these experiences you've had and just sit and be quiet and listen and come back to, and I always say, I'm like, oh, where's my knowing? And even when talking to my kids, it's right here for me. It's in my gut. It's like in my core, and it's always been there.
Oh, yeah.
So I've had the time to get back to that. And I'm like, I can trust me. I'm the one that's taking care of me. I'm the one that's built this brand. I'm the one that pays the bills. And I know how to manage money well. And I'm a businesswoman, and I've always been. And so, changing that subconscious, you've been a great gift for that.
Thank you.
Because that's, we might be able to say certain things. And I've always been about affirmations and words and writing them. But there are certain things, it's like, okay, I feel like I'm blocked. How do I get unstuck? And some of the exercises that you shared, especially where you're writing about, you say write before you go to bed. Write about how's your day? Started doing that.
Oh, good.
And I'm like, and I've always been a writer, but I was like, okay, you gave practical, freely. Your mindset of abundance versus, you know what I mean? You're like, look, just try this. I have things you can, join and do and be more involved, but just try this. And what a gift that's been in helping me just peel off these layers and step into this new season in life. And I'm loving it.
Well, that is wonderful, because I teach all these different techniques because, what works for one person doesn't work for another. So we just got to try them all and see what works, because it's just like exercise, because they have cumulative effects. And if you don't use them, they're not going to work. And so I try to come up with all different kinds of things. And so people just have this like smorgasbord of tools that, they can pull out when they need them, because I tried everything in the world. And some things worked and some things didn't. And even some of the techniques would frustrate me. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't need to be doing that.
Say that again, though. But see, weren't you the one, though, because we have similarities in how we were raised. You push through, right? You endure. But what I know now is that I get to choose.
Right. You don't have to.
Yes.
You don't have
gift.
to. Yeah. And there were so many things that I was told. And when I started my spiritual journey, I was about 28 or 20. I'm 47 now. So I was about 28, 29, and I really didn't know what I was doing. And I just immediately jumped in and started trying to manifest money, because that's, in my mind, what I really needed.
Fix everything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Not true.
Yeah.
Not true at all.
Yeah.
And what I realized was my subconscious beliefs were controlling my behaviors. And science shows that subconscious beliefs control 90% or more of our behaviors. And so I was not taught these things growing up. And instead of dissecting a damn frog, they should have taught me this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that would have been really good to know.
Right.
And so then I started, I switched gears and started trying to get rid of those belief systems. And I am telling you, Monica, that the thing that worked most for me was the writing. And I would sit like I was not happy in, my job at all. And I would just sit and I would write, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, like during business meetings until my hand would hurt. And then before I would go to bed, I did the same thing. I still have those notebooks. And I will flip through the pages. And I've cried at times, looking back. Because everything that I wrote about in those journals, I've got it. And so now I'm just on to a whole new journal.
Woo! I love that, honey. Listen, let me say this. Let me call this to what I see also, what I heard you say, and this has been the journey for me, really. The past couple of years, I've really needed to be able to go to a person to be able to help me out of my situation.
Yeah.
And what I found out, and really it's a guy who he was my rebound guy. But he was like, Monica, you're becoming the person you and your girls need. That's you, Paula, too. You know what I mean? Okay, you have different teachers, right? Different tools.
Yep.
And you have become your own coach, your own guru to help. And now you're sharing it. And so I relate to you. I'm like, yes. You were like, okay, I've got to figure this out. Somebody teach me this.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Oh, I know. And the first time that I saw you on Instagram, I was like, oh my God, I think she's done exactly what I did. Oh my God. And, and then I realized that you had. And so I knew that there had been like a huge shift. And I want to go back to something that you said about your intuition. So for me, I ignored my intuition for so long. And anytime that I did that, it took me down a path that really just kicked my ass hard. And so when I started listening to it and I went to the silence like you were able to finally do, I got these, subtle whispers, and I just started acting on it. Is that what you did too?
Yeah. And let me tell you what, the big shift that happened for me, it was not in my choosing. And that's what was like, I do feel like it was spirit, God, like saying, okay, if I'm a little bird in the nest, right? I feel like finally, I knew there would be some point where things would change for me. I know. I've always known what my calling is. And so it was like, oh, all of a sudden it was like, oh, no, you're done here. You're done here. And I felt like I was that little bird. And it's like, boop, get out the nest.
Yeah.
Fly, baby, fly. This is your time to reflect and do all the work. But I would say, what was your question?
We're talking about intuition.
Yes.
Turning your back on it and then following it and how things change.
So I learned to ignore it.
Oh, me too.
But when things started happening, when I really started paying attention, that turned in 2017. And I'm like, I know something's not right with this situation. And I was like, oh, and really, I met a great mentor. Her name is Mary. And she really taught me through working in a program to listen, to no longer deny my knowing. Because in doing work and looking back, right, in my personal history, that was like a common theme. And let me tell you this, like, I don't think any of us really grow without doing that work.
Right.
Right?
It's impossible, I think.
It really is. But I had to look at myself to say, what's my part in all this?
Right.
Oh, I deny what I know. And so then it's like, I feel like you teach people too. It's like you kind of start playing little games, right? Doing a little experiment. I'm like, what can you lose, right? And so it's like, okay. And I've always been deeply intuitive and empath. And it's like, okay, for example, you might be thinking about somebody and then they reach out to you.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and just enjoying that and really saying, this is real.
Yeah.
I can trust this. This is who I am. What a gift this is. And I want to be around people that encourage that because I know it serves me and also those around me. And so, so now I listen and I pay attention to my body and how I feel.
Yes.
And it's like, I was looking for so long for somebody outside of me to tell me what I need to think, do, feel, be, blah, blah. And now I know it's right here.
Yes.
Right? And I can trust it because I make good choices.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we're stuck on autopilot and letting our, making all these decisions based on those subjective beliefs, things go wrong. They go wrong a lot. I mean, my life was like a total soap opera. And I refer to this as a universal uprooting, because when you decide to change and follow your intuition, number one, people don't like it. Things can absolutely fall apart and go haywire. I had a lot of health issues pop up. I know you've dealt with that as well.
Yes.
And so, but, you know, looking back with my situation, all of those things happened to get me out of a horrible situation around horrible people. Horrible people. It's like a lot of disrespect, a lot of abuse that I didn't recognize as abuse. Like you said
pause
earlier,
right there,
I didn't
though.
know.
There's people listening right now
Yes.
who have, you don't know.
You don't know.
And then your mind
It's your
blown when you look
norm.
back.
Oh my God.
I
Oh
look back
my
and I'm
God.
like, I didn't even, and I tried to verbalize it. I would try to ask, but I was asking the wrong people.
There you go.
Because it served them.
Right.
So now I see it so clearly, and I'm like, as layers, and I still have layers that fall off. And it's like, whew, I enabled that, right? I accepted that. That's my part.
Yep.
Right? And so now it's like, that part.
Yeah.
And I don't have to beat myself up not knowing, because I was just doing the best that I could.
Right.
But when you know differently, and you don't have to, you know, you can't unsee what you've seen and what you know now.
Right.
You can make different choices.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And you know, I don't want to beat up on my mother.
Yeah.
God love her. She just straight up doesn't know any better. And she told me my entire life, well, Paula, when you love a man, he will treat you like dirt beneath his feet. That's just the way it is. Well, that's how I was treated. Like, seriously. And I got married later in life than most people. I got married for the first time when I was 38. And I met Will when I was 35. And I had said I had been alone for a very, very long time. And it was the best thing that I had ever done for myself. And I said, I absolutely am not going to entertain anybody unless they are as close to like a knight in shining armor as I can get, because this can't be this can't be it. And so once I made that decision, those people just started falling off, falling off, you know, just going away. And I wanted to bring that up because you mentioned when we were talking the other day about finding your tribe. And it's a whole other thing. There's no abuse and there's no disrespect. It's not perfect.
Right.
I mean, you have your differences with people, but you're not being treated horribly and being upset all the time. And when you feel that way, you attract that. And that's what a lot of people don't realize.
Well, that's what I love too. You know, this, the choice, the spiritual journey, it's so cool. And what I really appreciate about how the way I was raised, and I'm sure you can look back too, even how you were raised, right? It's like, oh, I'm sure there are certain tools. There's a way you know how to like set yourself up, right? To meditate, to focus, to whatever you want to call it, prayer, talk, meditate. You know, there are different forms. But it's in knowing that we are exactly where we're supposed to be today because of that journey.
Yeah.
And our people that meet us where we are. And I want to know from you, and I know it's your podcast, but I'm like so curious because I've been wanting to talk to you for so long.
Yeah.
But talk about that shift. What actions did you take, especially when it came to your love life, okay? Because, you know, people pop up. It's like, they will still pop up. So what did you do to do things differently to finally say enough is enough as people were reaching out?
I'll tell you exactly what I did. So I was stuck in a living situation with my mother. And it was such a toxic household because we fought all the time. And both of us were upset all the time. Both of us were traumatized and did not know it because we hadn't been educated about mental health. That wasn't brought up when I was little. We didn't even know what was going on there. And so my home life attracted everything in my, relationship, my intimate relationships, my platonic relationships. You know, I was surrounded by a lot of disrespectful people that didn't want me to be any different. I was their entertainment because I would sit on that bar stool and binge drink and talk about all my problems. And it was funny. And people loved it. And so, I was just on, that's how I behaved. I stopped acting like that because I realized that I was doing all these things that were making me feel horrible. And I started to understand how, and I know people think that the law of attraction is cheesy. It's not. It's real. It's real. And so like attracts like. And so if I felt horrible, then how could I attract anything good? So I had to make a shift. And so I stopped going to the bars as much. I stopped talking when I realized the power of my words. I stopped talking about how bad my life was. I just stopped talking about it. And I had to bite my tongue, and people didn't like that.
They didn't know what to do, did they?
They didn't know what to do. And so what that meant was I couldn't go around those people as much anymore. So what I did was I went to the only place in my house that I had any privacy at all, and that was my closet. And I would get in the floor of that closet and lie down, and for an hour to 2 hours every single day, I would envision the life that I wanted. And it started to feel, after about doing that consistently, for about 3 or 4 months or so, it started to feel so real that when I would flip that light on and walk out of that closet, that my physical reality, I didn't feel like I belonged in it. And so those visions felt so real that I raised my vibe, and I just felt better. It gave me something to look forward to. And before I knew it, things started happening.
I love it.
And it was I call it a universal uprooting, because I would go into those visions and I would be very specific about what I wanted. And it was the opposite of my reality. And so I had to be pushed out of that,
Like the bird nest. Like for me, it was like, no.
Right.
I've heard you say that too. You say before things get better.
It got a lot worse.
Yes. It's like, okay, you're calling this in, but you don't have the courage to make the step. Yeah. Cool. I'm just going to, boop, there you go. You got this. Yeah, it's time.
Yeah. It was like it's just shoved out of it. And it happened it happened all at once. And that's how my manifestations come in. They happen all at once. And so that's what I did with the relationship thing. It all really tied in together. But it gave me a strength and a confidence and a level of emotional intelligence and maturity that I just had not had before.
Say that.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, and I look back and I'm like, what in the world was I thinking?
Honey.
I mean, I have got horrible, the stories are hilarious, but they're bad.
I know.
And so it's like, and so just becoming aware that I was really the person attracting all that and causing all that. And so when I was able to realize that piece of it, I was able to claim a tremendous amount of power. And I didn't want to be around those people anymore. I didn't want it. And so, but I had to get them out before anybody good could come in. And when I met Will, my social circles seriously had gone down from, this is no exaggeration, I'd say 100 people. Those are all superficial relationships, but 100 people to maybe 3.
Whew.
Yeah. And so, and this, took a while. It didn't happen overnight. I mean, it took a while, but it just took me to understand that I was the person that was causing a lot of it.
But that's hard. I can relate.
Yeah.
I can relate. I know for me, when I really found the people to help me to really be able to acknowledge that and to accept my part, I could not, when I'm being told, stop being a victim. Now, certain things you are technically a victim.
Oh, absolutely.
When it comes to other people's actions against you. However, I couldn't hear I couldn't hear it like I hear it today, or like I can say it today. And it is that's such a tremendous shift to be able to look at yourself differently. I remember this lady who I reached out to, this intuitive therapist, and she was like, "Oh yeah, you attracted this, yeah, like, yeah, something like works perfect." And I'm like, "And I'm paying you?"
Yeah.
I'm like, but it wasn't. I was not in a place where I was ready to hear that.
Same. I went through that too.
Yes.
Get mad.
Yeah, and you're like, it's confusing, right? And it's like, what are you, because this is not right. What I know today is I'm sitting back so happy. I've never been, like, it gets better and better life. And I'm not in a rush. There is no hurry. Like, I'm enjoying every moment of this, like, delicious, just like unfolding of my beautiful life. And I don't have to be rushed for anything.
Right.
And it's in that I'm like, oh, that's where my power is, because I didn't have it before. I didn't know how to harness that, and
Right.
just to sit.
Well, it's a level of freedom that you can't get through doing what everybody else wants you to do.
Man.
It's just like, and then when you are free, you feel better.
When you look different.
You look different.
When I had my little cousin reached out, and she's the cutest thing ever, she said, "Monica, what are you doing to lose weight?" I'm like, I'm not doing anything, but literally, things shift.
They do.
That cortisol, you know what I mean? It's like less stress. And it's been so cool. Like, I look back at videos, and I'm like, dang, you know what I mean? Like, but what a beautiful gift, right? Because now, if people are asking, that must mean I have something to say.
Yes.
And I can help other folks if they're coming to me, right? For input. And it's like, oh, we can do this.
Well, did you notice when, you had your transformation or your shift, whatever we want to call it, did you notice that people treated you differently? People really treated me differently.
What do you mean, how so? Give me an example.
More respect. People started bringing me gifts for no reason, and I just couldn't understand that. And then strangers would just come up to me in public and give me compliments, and that hadn't really happened to me before.
Yeah.
But I was vibing so low that I didn't attract that kind of thing in. I attracted in insults. And talk about weight. Oh my God. My peak weight was 204. And so, and during that time, I was just in the worst headspace ever.
Yeah.
And the minute that I, started working on my mindset, when I got the big picture, I didn't have to work that hard to keep that weight off.
See, I'm so excited about
and
your
you
book.
Do, you do look great.
Thank you. I feel fantastic.
You look,
honestly, like, it has been such a cool journey. There have been moments, and I can let myself have those moments, right, as I'm deciding what works for me, what I like, what I love. Even my hair, growing my hair out and embracing my curls, and it's like, it's been a process of like 2 years growing it out, loving on it, learning, and I'm still learning, but I'm like, oh my goodness, my curls are here and I love them. What a gift.
I know.
Right? And I have 2 girls, and I'm like, oh, please help them to see how to have healthy, thriving, beautiful lives. And I know they will.
Yeah, oh, yeah. They're going to learn from you.
Yeah.
A lot of young girls are going to learn from you. I mean, you're going to be like their person. I want to be like Monica. And if we look back to all the people that we admired those people because we have those qualities too. And our intuition speaks to us that way too. And if I look back at anybody I ever admired and I dig deep into who they are, I've got those qualities too. And I've always had those qualities, right? And you have too, and everybody does. It's just people settle and they conform and they do what they think everybody wants them to do, and that's where everybody really screws up. And it was just a hamster on a wheel thing for me for so long. And it's like, if I hadn't interrupted the pattern,
honey,
oh my God,
honey,
I don't
girl, I'm sorry. I feel like I can be so comfortable with you. I'm just like, listen, no, I agree. I mean, I agree. And it's like, I can so many times, there have been so many moments in my life that, and really during this time, I had to look back. I've always been a person to write things down, and you can call it people call it manifestation. It used to be called goal setting, but I've always written a vision down, and like things happened. It dawned on me. It's about a year ago. I was speaking at this little tiny church for this breast cancer event, and it was the first time I had told my story, like at that time, and I was looking back, and I said, "Oh my goodness, everything I set out for, everything I've ever set a goal for, I've made it. I've accomplished." And that was one of the first times how you see me probably, I can see myself like that now because of the work I've done, but I didn't used to see myself like that.
Right.
And I can look back, and I remember this little girl I used to work with at the station. She's like, "You're Monica Hardin." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" But at that time, I just wasn't capable, right, of fully like owning and like just leveraging, right, the things that I've brought and who I am. But what a gift to know, that, like you said, this is it's always been in me. And nobody told me to do it.
Right.
It's just how I showed up.
Yeah.
And what I get to do. And like now, like I love being a mama. Like I love being able to go to mass on Thursday mornings with my kids at school. Like I love being able to create and to share content. I love having my fingers in all these different business ventures because I've always been an entrepreneur.
Right.
Always, my whole life, from my candy store in middle school to Girl Scout cookies, now to helping other people reach their bottom lines and helping them to elevate and expand and become more visual. What a gift.
Oh, yeah.
To like own it finally.
Right.
Women owning it.
Yeah. And in realizing all of that probably led you to your major focus on gratitude, right?
Honey.
Because I used to say, and I really want you to talk about your gratitude work because it's fascinating. I used to be that person that would say, "Well, I don't have anything to be grateful for." And I said that all the time. Yeah. And it's a wonder that something irreversible did not happen to me as I ran my mouth like I did about that. But the gratitude it will absolutely change your life if you live in gratitude. It just will. So I'd love to hear your take on that. And when you really started, practicing gratitude just as it's as normal as brushing your teeth.
Right.
Yeah,
it's truth. For me, I would always say I've been a person who appreciated, like I'm kind of old fashioned when it comes to certain things. Like I love a thank you note. So I still like to write a thank you note, right?
Yeah.
So saying thank you, to be grateful for things, right? I've always had that, but this gratitude practice that I began 4 years ago has been like a transformative game changer for me because in the midst of going through a lot of really tough stuff, my transformation village showed up for me. And one person in that village is my friend Elizabeth. And I kept hearing her talk about this gratitude list and how much it helped. And I'm like, finally, I was like, okay, I built up the courage to ask her. I said, "Will you tell me how this works? And will you share your list with me?" And she said, "Absolutely." She said, "First of all, it's an exchange. So I'm glad to share it with you, but you need to write 3 things. You send me yours and I'll send you mine." And here we are like 4 years later. And I have about 7 women I exchange it with right now, this gratitude list. So every single night I sit down and it's looked different. You can go back and look at the journal, right? Through what you can tell what I'm going through every day. But it's an opportunity for me to stop, to be mindful, to reflect on my day. And then I always start out with the same line. I said, I'm sure I wear some people out. I'm grateful, that me and my children are provided for abundantly. You know what I mean? Like every day. And then I just go through the day and give gratitude. And how this is transformational for me is that the things that were so difficult, that the intent from people and places outside of me maybe to harm me, the things that were the hardest, the people I worked with, they said, "You have to be thankful for that. Switch it up. Flip the script. So we're going to be thankful for this person, these people, this place, this thing." It might seem a little like a backhanded gratitude, but do that. And you're going to say a little prayer for these people and until you just feel like it's, you're done with that or what have you. So you don't harbor resentment. And that's really the gift of gratitude for me. So I have these other incredible, courageous women who I do this exchange with every day. And I'm telling you what, we've all gone through so much life in 4 years, right? I mean, surgeries, ups, downs, all the things every single day. The age ranges from 40 to 70 something.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the growth. I see the stuff they're going through. It's not a place where somebody's questioning or checking you. It's a place of accountability and community where it's just safe to be able to trust. And so I do it every day. There was a season though, Paula, I mean, it would wear me out because it was just like, I just didn't want to do it. But I still was like, okay, this is something that's a part of me.
Yeah.
And it has changed everything because I look at everything differently. And now it's like, I mean, I could go on and on for days, write my gratitude list. But again, it goes back to what you talk about with the exercise. Write about your day in the evening. You know, it's like along the same lines, shifting that subconscious.
Yeah.
How you change your life, you have to change it yourself on purpose.
Right.
And be intentional about it consistently every day. And that gratitude, things that grieved me so much, now it's like,
Yeah.
I have such deep gratitude for the journey. Paula, and this is all like really fresh, but I'm like, had I not had the experiences that I had in the past, I wouldn't be ready to receive, right?
Right.
This
That's
next
it.
phase.
It prepares us. All of that
Right?
prepares us. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when you can start feeling grateful for somebody who did you wrong, and look at them as, like, I look at my people that I have, forgiven, because I couldn't have forgiven those people without gratitude.
Yeah.
Because gratitude with me, empathy, it's all in the same, recipe here. But I could have never forgiven any of those people if I hadn't been able to see them through the lens of gratitude and say, you know what, they taught me something. That was one of my greatest teachers.
Whew, that right there.
Yeah.
But did it happen in one time where you're like, okay, I'm grateful for them? Or is that a process for you?
It was a big process for me. And most of the people, so Dr. Wayne Dyer is really the person that, reeled me in. I mean, I give him credit for, who I am today. I just did everything he told me to do because my way just was not working. And I was studying Dr. Dyer and realized that I was going to have to do this forgiveness work, that he talked about all the time. And he's like, you've got to do it. And forgiveness doesn't mean that you're condoning anybody's behavior or you even want to associate with them, but you have got to forgive them. And this is how you do it. And he taught me how to look at the people who had abused me or disrespected me or whatever through empathy. And so I just took the information that I had about certain people and I thought back to what they had been through. And it gave me just a little ounce of, compassion. And then I just kept practicing that every single day until I woke up one morning and I didn't think about those people anymore and it didn't eat at me anymore. And then when I got to where, that had lifted, I was able to look back and see all of the opportunities that came out of those relationships. And every single thing that I went through is in my work today. It's in all of that stuff that just, comes to me when I'm sitting up there, in my office. I'm like, and I'll come up with something. But it all springs from those relationships. And so gratitude has been huge, huge. And if someone would have said to me 20 years ago, when I was so miserable and woe is me and, dating these awful people, if someone would have said, Paula, you're going to have to be, grateful for this, I would have been like, what?
Right.
I would have gotten so mad. Went and drank more and griped about that. So gratitude is huge. And it's not that I don't think that a lot of people understand the importance of it. I think a lot of people don't understand the vibration that is connected with it and the power and what it can do. So I just think it's really, really cool that you focus on that in your business.
Oh, yes.
Do you think you can teach? Have you ever taught someone gratitude?
So it's so funny. So I actually did a Nerd Night Louisville talk on gratitude. It's the first time I did a presentation on it. And I learned from that, right? Because it was the first time I was really talking publicly about my journey with gratitude. And you can teach somebody, but gratitude for me, I call it a practice, right? So it's just like martial arts or something. You have to practice it, right? And so it evolves. You can't do it wrong. The whole thing is no matter what, just do it.
Just do it.
So there are some key elements, you know what I mean, to doing the gratitude practice for us. You exchange it with somebody, right? You start with 3 things. But it's always a mutual back and forth. And you do it consistently every day. And that's that accountability, right, to do that. And I've really learned from the other women I exchange with because it is so, and we really learn from each other. So you can teach somebody. So it just depends. Like, and I've thought a lot about this because I know I'll be helping more people learn because from that Nerd Night talk. By the way, we're going to get you doing a Nerd Night talk.
Oh, I can't wait to do Nerd Night.
It's going to be so great. It's like a TED Talk. So for those of you who don't know, but it's like a TED Talk, but at this local brewery, and they have them all over the country. A 20-minute talk, a PowerPoint presentation, such a cool event, an opportunity. But people had such great questions. And so many of us, like you said, were walking around, you know, just going with the flow, not even knowing what's happening. And there was a woman, and I hope if she hears this, she will reach out to me. She had a mother that passed away. And I talk about some heavy stuff in that talk. And we didn't get to connect afterwards because she wanted to know how to move through her grief through gratitude. And I never forget that because Paula, you know, I always was looking for like this quick fix, right? This arrival point. But what I know is it is all the journey. And I know somebody's hearing that and they're like, bull crap. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear that. But it's about the journey and sitting in it, sitting in the uncomfortable places, sitting in the happy places, allowing things to flow through you, whether it's grief, whether it's joy. You know what I mean? You just have to be where you are and let the things move through. And so I look back and even the guy, Vaughn, who heads up Nerd Night, it was cool to literally see, like I saw him do a paradigm shift that night. And Elizabeth will attest to that. It was like, oh, it is transformative for your life. It's not just saying, okay, you know, like Thanksgiving meal. All right, I'm thankful for the turkey and the. And you can be thankful for those things too, but it's a process and a practice that is a daily practice that helps you. And it's really like you're doing the work yourself. There are certain tools and tips, like, right, you follow Dr. Dyer, but it's like, oh, you just have to keep doing it.
You have to keep doing it. Yeah, until it just becomes, like I said earlier, as natural as brushing your teeth. And it makes such a huge difference. And I think that for me, and I'd like to, you know, see if this resonates with you too, or if it applies. When I started feeling gratitude for things that I hadn't before, it gave me another like form of power because I started realizing that I had to say no to a lot of things in order to say yes to really get to where I wanted to be. And people don't like it.
But honey, that's the spirit speaking to you for me. No, I just had to say 2 no's recently, and I knew there were, you know, I was taught to overgive. I was taught to be a martyr, right? You give till it hurts.
Yeah.
And what I know now is I can do more and help more people if I'm really fulfilling my calling, right? Doing what I need to be doing, right? So I understand that. So I had to say 2 no's. And that felt so uncomfortable. What I know is no for me. No is a complete sentence. I mean, I'm like you too. It's like I used to want people to know all the stories, all the details, who did me wrong, why they did it. I needed to be validated. Now I'm just like, no, it is what it is. And I know I don't need you. I don't need anybody's validation. But sitting in that no, I just said a no. And now this is the recent one that was so hard for me because normally I feel obliged and obligated to do something. Now we're going on a little weekend trip, me and my kids, because I said no, that space was there. And I'm like, that was not a plan. But there's certain things. I know you're big on like vision boarding and stuff, but it's like we hadn't gone anywhere in a long time. And I'm like, we got to get up and go somewhere.
Yeah.
I said no so I could say yes to another opportunity. And I want to be able to say yes to those things that are what make life fantastic for me and my family.
Yes. And I realized too that and this is, you know, past, present, and future, but if you say yes, and this really, really ties into co-creating your world your way, using the universe. But if you say yes to something that you don't want to do, think about how you feel.
Oh, I've eaten a lot of crap. And my people, my close people, oh, they've heard. And but it's like, okay, I have to, why am I doing this, right?
Right.
What am I And I can choose to do things differently because I have choices. Yo, when I said those 2 no's recently, it was so empowering for me. And that's really been the story of my life, Paula. I've used my voice my entire life. And I know that's what I get to do, right? I used it mainly for other people, right? So advocating for other people. I was always an advocate for my mom. She was blind. And, her last 10 years, she was in a nursing home. So it was like always using the voice for that. I anchored the news. I was telling other people's stories, putting out other people's messages. So my voice is a powerful instrument and tool. And it's my gift that I have in this life. And over these past few years, it's like I've been finding my own genuine voice. And now I get to like use it for me. And do I have it fully yet? No, but it's here, and I'm owning and I'm taking my power. And I didn't realize that too, like that I really do have choices, because I just didn't know.
I know.
Now I know I have choices, and I'm like, for real? So I played a little game, and I'll tell you when stuff falls into place, because I said, okay, we talk about limiting beliefs, but I've really had to say, this is what I really want. Why am I just, even on my own vision, why am I just putting this? Let me just go all out. Let me do a little personal experiment. Nobody needs to know, but Monica. So go all out. Go bananas and do it, and just watch and see what happens, and get yourself ready and walk in the ways of. And so that's what we do, and that's how we live now. And what a gift that is.
It's a total game changer. It's a total game changer. And because nobody educated me about any of this stuff, I had to educate myself. When I felt irritated and miserable all the time, sitting there fake smiling and pretending that everything was okay, and this with me goes back to childhood, doing things that I didn't want to do, people pleasing.
Because you have to, though. You got to endure, right? You got to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so, but there's a feeling associated with that, and it's this irritability that just eats at you. It's like this bitterness. And if you keep doing it and it's not interrupted, then like attracts like. That's what you get back. And that's what I didn't understand. And that's what a lot of people that I talk to in this day and time want to understand, because they think that they're victims of chance. Like all this stuff is going on around them and happening to them, but they're just like a sitting duck without any control. There's the rifles, they're there just ready to shoot, and they can't do anything about it. When the facts are, they're just not aware of how what their feelings are attracting. And I remember I was involved with this guy when I was in my early 20s. And I refer to him as the redneck in my book.
I can't wait for your book to come out. I am so dying and itching to get my hands on this thought snob.
There's some stories in this book. And so he was just horrible to deal with. And I kind of lived in fear for many, many years of this guy, because he showed up wherever I was at. And whenever he would show up, I'd be like, oh God, because he would just raise hell. I mean, all bets were off when he showed up. And I mean, he was there, he was loaded, and I mean, I was his target, and there were some bad times over the years. And there was one episode with him that was absolutely just ridiculous. And it was kind of like a breaking point for me, because after everything happened that night, I just went home and I cried, and I talked about it all day the next day, and the next day, and the next day, and the next day. And then I got very, very sick. I was diagnosed with flu B. I got served with this summons because I had this unpaid bill that I didn't know about, and someone had turned me into a collection agency. Then my mother, this was all in like just a few days period, and then my mother got laid off from her factory job, which took a big chunk of our household income. I'm just telling you, it was this spiral. And I had no control over my emotions, period. And so I got very mad and blamed everybody else involved but me. And when it was me that got involved with him in the first place, and it was me that wouldn't set those boundaries, and it was me that had low self-esteem, and it was me that felt like I didn't deserve any better. So that's another thing that ties back around to the thought snob concept, because it's like your motto is, I'm better than that. And I mean, I remember thinking back in the day, I would think to myself, I'm better than this. There has to be something better. And then I would feel guilty for thinking I was better than that.
Because it served other people.
Right. And they didn't like it.
Right.
And so I just wanted to elaborate on that just a little bit, because it all ties into the gratitude and the saying no and playing it safe.
But I love that you said, Paula, this was the pattern throughout personally and professionally. It's just that, we are who we are wherever we go. Mm-hmm. And I'm so glad that you listened finally. I'm so glad that
Me
you
too.
were like, okay, and you paid attention, because your work, it's fantastic. I love your authenticity.
Well, thank you.
I love your sass.
Thank you.
I'm like, it's such a gift though. And you're so, you call yourself most relatable, and you're very relatable, right? I find myself, it's how you share, and you're like, listen, this is how it was for me. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is who I am today because of the choices that I've made. Mm-hmm. And I was curious to you also, we grew up very similarly in certain aspects. What is your advice for people as far as, who their teachers should be or what their tools should be? Because I used to think there was only one way to do certain things, right? Talk about that, could you?
I think that it goes back to what I said earlier about who we're drawn to. And we're drawn to people for certain reasons, and whether that be a celebrity or that be someone we know personally or a teacher or someone like you or a coach or whoever, if we're drawn to somebody and we, for whatever reason, are inspired or we admire them or whatever, we need to watch their behavior. We need to watch what they do, And I think that when we approach life that way in general, it also keeps us from being jealous of people, because I really struggle with jealousy, and that is such a misdirected emotion. Because when we see somebody that's got something we want, why would we be jealous of them? Mm-hmm. Well, how can I get that?
Well, you know what, though? Here's the thing for me, and one of my favorite people that I follow, she's always like, I'm so happy when anybody gets anything. And this has been illumined to me as I do more shedding because I have certain people and I've had to just give them space because it's like they'll snap. You know what I'm saying? Just say stuff that's off. Mm-hmm. So truly, when I see somebody with something, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
When I see I see Will today taking such great care of you, what did I say? I'm pumping it up. I'm like, yes, yes. Because I know if I can have that gratitude for what's for you, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And I'm close to it because you already have it. And I want what you have. And one of my mentors, that's the thing, one of my greatest mentors in the past few years, my friend Mary Flanagan, the reason I reached out to her to be my mentor was because she had something I wanted.
There you go.
She had been a single woman, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, so for me, now don't get me wrong, there are things that are out there and I'm like, okay, yeah, I just add it to my list, but I'm like, no. Because if you can have it, right, so can I. Whether it's peace, whether it's prosperity, whether it's your man, whether it's, whatever it is.
Right.
I get to choose. And I want to be happy. I used to not be happy along the way. I competed in Miss America. I did not have fun at Miss America. I didn't have fun.
Oh, I'd love to hear about that.
It was a means to an end because I was going to save my family. I knew I could make $250,000 that year. It was my out, right? And when I lost, I was devastated. It was because that was my dream from the time I was 8 years old. But what I know today because of that experience is that I used to hear people say, you got to enjoy the journey. And I'm like, whatever. But now I really do. And I'm happy for the people all around me.
Right.
Because I know when I am, it's like, oh, that's like the little vibe we're all in. All right, just be happy. And when somebody's not happy for me, right, especially those I consider friends and stuff, then it's like, it hits me. It's like a gut punch these days.
Yes.
Because we just feel so good all the time. My house feels so good. It's so peaceful. People walk into my home and they're like,
they can feel it.
Yes.
It's good energy.
Yeah, it's great. So, honey, I'm like, listen, I'm looking at your big rocks. I'm looking at this gorgeous house I'm in. I'm like, yes, let me just savor it. Her man made the show open. I'm going to brag on him again.
Yeah.
Musician.
He's done great. Yeah.
Like, what a gift,
I
right?
know.
You're living your wildest dreams, and they're just getting better and better.
Yeah. And when you meet the people that you're supposed to be around, things start happening and everybody's life improves. And when you see something that you want, then you're meant to have it. It's just like, Halston wanted to be a fashion designer. I've never wanted to do that. Right? But I do want to be an author, and that feels very natural to me. And so that means I'm meant to have that. And I've always had an eye for things that shine. And so I'm meant to have those things. And so whatever it is that you want it for a reason. You're meant to have it. Yeah. And the universe will show you people and show you things to, catch your attention. And so I always pay really close attention to what catches my attention. That Miss America story, that's a whole other podcast within itself, because I have seen your pictures and see my perception of that is, oh my God, look at her. I mean, and you look very happy. And that's where I go back to the fake smiling and the pretending. And I'd say you were probably energetically drained after that. I mean, I got cold chills. I swear to God, when you said that, I got cold chills.
Oh, yeah. It was, and it's on video. MTV followed me. I was on their True Life series.
Right.
I'm a beauty queen. And there's a moment, and I truly felt like that. And I've always been like I'm an uplifter naturally. I'm optimistic. But literally, they came to do the final interview. And I literally put an L on my head, and I said, I feel like a big loser. Oh. And that is truly what I felt like, because this for me was work. That's my whole life. It's been like, it's like, got to work, got to do, you know what I mean? And, but now I'm like, oh, I get to enjoy it every day. Life can feel good every day. Yeah. And it's like, so I look back and I have compassion on younger Monica, right? I've done a lot of nurturing inner self, younger self. And I'm not mad, because that is what she needed to do at the time. That's what I needed to do at the time. Right. But now I'm like, okay, baby, if we're not having fun, I need to stop. I need to stop what I'm doing. And I need to take a deep breath, and I need to get myself back right in a healthy headspace for that. And I can do that because I know when you know better, you can do better. Right. Yeah, man. Yeah. Paula, I'm like, I could just talk to you all the time. There's so much coming up. This is so great.
I know. This is absolutely awesome. And I would like for you to, Will's been giving me the 5-minute whistle over there. Yep. But I would like for you to tell people about your business and how they can find you. And then, of course, I'll post all your information and your website and your social media handles and all of that with the podcast. But would you care to talk about that for just a moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that. So what's coming up next? So the Monica Hardin Company is my company. I'm CEO and founder. And truly, in a nutshell, the purpose is to help people to pull out their key edge. Everybody has an edge. Like you say, everybody has gifts. Yeah. To be able to pull out what that special gift is, that edge, I call it, own your edge, and to help elevate it, help illuminate it, help them to expand, and then to engage. And so whether that's an individual, whether it's a corporation, everything from consulting to ad buys. And so they can go to monicahardin.com to find out more information. But we do a whole lot. Even we were talking about voiceover, and I love your voiceover booth that you have here in your home studio. We do voiceover work also. And so a variety of services, but to elevate the brand, to get people's brands out and exposed so they can level up and work their business and help their bottom line.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. And that is certainly a business, especially a female-owned business that Kentucky needs in a big way.
Ah, thank you.
And I think that a lot of people will absolutely benefit from everything that you've said and all of your work. And I'm so glad that you were willing to do this, because I was a little nervous about asking. And I'm glad you said yes. And we have so much more to talk about. We really do. But maybe we can do this again at some point in the near future.
I would love that. And just congratulations on everything. And
well, thank you.
Thank you for bringing me in the fold. I said, it was time.
Yeah.
it was time, because I remember you had reached out. It was like October 2022. We'd done an event, and you reached out. But it was time. This was the right time for this.
Yes, I agree.
So I trust the journey. I trust the process.
That's exactly right. Like I said the other day, hey, we're on to something. Let's roll with it. Let's see what happens.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Yeah.
yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you so much.
This has been wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
The Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope has been brought to you by Thought Snob Media in association with Special Purpose Studios. All production, mixing, and sound engineering by me, Will Swope. We hope you've enjoyed this podcast. Please take a few seconds to give us 5 stars and leave a review. See you on the next Thought Snob Podcast with Paula Swope.